Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SuperCoach Edge, and we are coming out of round 3 of the BBL SuperCoach, and thanks as always for tuning in. If you are new to the channel, feel free to give us a like, subscribe, rating, review, all that sort of stuff across YouTube or audio podcast, wherever you may be consuming us, and we are always appreciative of the support. But it was a bit of a chaos round, I think, in sort of summary. By and large, there were some players that people traded in that they were hoping for big scores from, and they didn't get them. And conversely, we had a couple of big scores from a couple of lesser likes as well that people may have traded in on the double. But with that, let us get into how we performed. Keep it a little bit snappier this time because as I'm recording this, it is 17 minutes to midnight. Of course, a bit of a late shift here after the last game of round 3. So let's see how we performed as I flick across here. And surprisingly, I actually thought I was going to drop in rank because I ended up scoring a 957, well below what I'd scored last round, which was, 1150 or something. But as it turned out, it was a relatively tough round. Ranked in the top 9%. Last round, I was ranked in the top 1% for the weekly score. But as I said, as I was just alluding to, the season rank, I've actually gone up and consolidated on my strong start to the season. I've gone up 125 spots to now sit 222 overall, or 222nd overall. A lot of twos there, and it's a good sight to see. I, in all honesty, thought I would have slid maybe back to around about the 500th mark, but it just goes to show that it was a tough round all around. So let us have a look at how we performed and check out our breakdown of the team. But actually, before I do that, something we haven't done before. Let us check out the round 3 team of the week and see what the highest score was. 1460 was the highest scoring team, and they had James Vince, who was one of those players I was alluding to that popped off with the big score on the double that many people wouldn't have had. He also had Duckett, who scored a 210, who I don't think anyone would really have. He kept Matt short with a 120. Philippi, he had as the captain, 198. That's a very, very unorthodox move, but worked out well for him. Billings, 147. Johnson, 163. So this team that this bloke has, or this chick has, a very, very nice team. And to score a 1460 in a very, very even, tough week is tip of the old cap. So that is the team of the week. Let us flick across to our team. And ended up winning 3 out of my 6 league matchups, which is okay and kind of reflective of the week itself or the round itself. Let us roll through position by position. And first up, we have Josh Philippi. So he was my one of my 3 or 4 trade-ins. I ended up using my last boost for this round, and it was always the way, always something that I'd strategized for. And Philippi, he returned a very, very nice 198, scored quite well. I think it was a 77 or thereabouts. It might have been a little bit more in the first game, and then absolutely punched out the remainder of that big score in tonight's game against the Heat, when he was at the crease the entire game and scored, 60 odd not out. So a really, really nice performance there from Philippi. And it could have turned out much, much different. And I spoke about it in the previous video. A lot of sliding doors moments when it comes to BBL SuperCoach, where, almost making one move as opposed to another can either dictate whether or not you have a big, big round or a terrible round. And even beyond that as well, it could really set up the rest of your season, or it could really send things into a bit of a nosedive. And I was actually considering as a little bit of a money saver because, again, as I always say, I'm planning 2 to 3 rounds in advance. I was thinking about in terms of, saving money in order to have enough money to bring in the likes of Matt Short, who I had to trade out, also Sutherland, who is coming up with the double, and likewise Tom Rogers from the Renegades as well, also on the double. So I was considering potentially skimping and going a little bit more frugal with Harper. The one thing that saved me, believe it or not, I wasn't really, seriously considering it, but I did think about it fleetingly. And when I saw the teams released for that round, for the first Melbourne Stars game, and Harper, I think, was named 7th in the batting order. And I was like, okay, well, he slid down the batting order. There's no way that he's going to actually have a chance at scoring well enough in the first game, let alone in the second game. And as it turned out, he went out for what was it, a 4 in the second game, and relatively cheaply in the first as well from memory. So yeah, it actually worked out quite well going for Philippi. Philippi actually went up in price as well. He's got a negative 46 break even as well. So if I didn't bring him into my team, I'd be scampering to try and get him in. And a lot of non-owners, I think, will be of that mindset as well. Like he's got a negative 46 break even, Philippi. He went up 28.3K in this round just gone alone. So, with that negative 46 break even, faces the Hobart Hurricanes, could come out and absolutely smash it. He's projected for a price rise of 27.3K with a projected score of 65. So I think in previous seasons, Philippi's kind of, if I haven't started with him in my team, he's been that guy that I have leaned upon to come into my team as that value player and more often than not be relatively reliable. He was very lucky, I think, in the Heat game in that the required run rate wasn't too high. So he could just stay at the crease and, pop off and play sensible shots. So that worked quite well. So one thing I will actually mention off the back of that as well, and something which again is a sliding doors moment for, coming into round 3. With my other trade, I was thinking of bringing in Meredith as opposed to Owen from the Hurricanes. So Mitch Owen from the Hurricanes, he went up 26.4K to his credit, but he scored shit. He only scored 28. Didn't really do much. I think he had a catch in the field, which helped him. Otherwise, he would have scored an 18 with the bat. He's still got a negative 61 break even. So for those people that still have him, tip of the old cap to you. But it meant that if I was to go for Mitch Owen, I wouldn't have had the chance to go for another double game week player in the form of, a Dwarshuis, Philippi, and a Maxwell. Those are the guys that I brought in. And then with the boost was McSweeney. So I could have gone for Mitch Owen as opposed to McSweeney, and I was kind of weighing that up, as well as Meredith, who scored even less than that. So I'm lucky that I didn't go down that route. But like I was speaking to someone on Twitter about, yes, Mitch Owen has gone up in price, but end of the day, you're getting players in your team to score on field. So if I didn't bring in McSweeney, I would have missed out on his 73, and I would have only had 28. So what's that? 50, 40, 45 point difference there between both of those, and sort of, weighing up, quantifying, do you go for the guy that, is going to be on the field scoring less points but making more money, or do you go for that player that has still gone up in price in McSweeney and scored more points in 73? So McSweeney still went up to the value of 22.2K. So a little bit less than Owen, but obviously scored a little bit more. So you've really got to weigh that up and keep that in mind. Don't just try and go for the guy that's going to go up in price. Yes, it's always good, especially in, a restricted minimized season with 9 rounds. It does make sense, but you need to find that balance between, someone that could potentially make you cash, yes, but can that player also score more for you on field? Like I would have had to have played Mitch Owen on the field and I would have scored less points. So again, just the strategy side of things, something that you need to really weigh up. It's hard to assess. It is all really a guess, but you've got to look at matchups, all that sort of stuff as well. So I just thought I'd make a point of that, but let us roll on with the rest of our side. So Josh Doran, he's just sitting there as the DNP, did not play, and didn't have to use him in this case. Because I ended up using Salzman as my captaincy loophole, who I'll get to in a moment, who I was very, very frustrated with. So with the batsman, Jamie Overton, he is the one constant in my team. And I think if you haven't got him in your team, try and find a way to get him in. It might be a bit too hard now because his price point is at 242K on the dot. And he's gone up 34.3K, started above 200K to start the season. But this bloke is as reliable as they come. He scored a 99, a 61, 103, and a 131 across his 4 games that he's played. So really, he is someone that is captaincy worthy. Even coming into this round 4, obviously the strikers have the double. You've got to weigh up. Do you go for Overton or do you go for Matt Short? I think a lot of people will go with the big name in Matt Short, but if you want to go contrarian, if you want to go different, if you want to sort of get a bit of a jump or a leg up on the rest of the competition, you can go for Overton. If you did that with the strikers' first double, I think you would have come out on top as opposed to if you went for Matt Short. So again, there's runs of the board there in that area if you want to go for that. But just keep that in mind. Strategically, it is a very nice play if you want to go down that path. Alongside him, Jack Edwards from the Sixers. Now, big disappointment here. Only scored the 12 coming off the first game. Didn't play the second game because I think Greg Shippard was saying initially in the first game, that Edwards has strained a groin. It then came out that he had a hamstring awareness, as they always call it. Very, very frustrating. And even though he's named in the extended squad, he wasn't named in the final team. So didn't play the second game and finished with a score of 12 in a double game round, which is very, very hurtful. Also dropped in price, only $800, which is actually much, much less than what I thought he would. I saw the red downward arrow and I thought, here we go, he's absolutely done himself a doozy here. But it's funny the way that things work with the magic number and fluctuations in price in BBL SuperCoach. But in this case here, off the back of a bad game, because I think he scored quite well in his previous 2 games, that rolling average meant that this one down game was kind of held up by those previous 2 good games of 75 and 65 scores. Now, really, alongside him, when you thought it was going bad, it went from bad to worse. In the case of Tom Curran, I spoke about him in the preseason, about the fact that he was extreme value. Tom Curran's been one of my favourite players in SuperCoach BBL, but also in BBL in general. But, he has had one of the all-time mares, I think, for the BBL. Scored a 39, yes, in the first game and was very, very lucky. Then was ruled out in the second game and has been ruled out for the entirety of the competition. I think it may have been a calf niggle or something of that nature, but he will not be available for the remainder of the competition. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter now. I think the Stars don't have any more doubles for the remainder of the season. So, that in combination with the fact that he's been in bad form, you probably would have looked to punt him anyway. But the fact that he now has obviously been ruled out for the rest of the season, you can easily move him on. He's dropped 6.2K and now sits priced at 140.7K. So, yeah, I guess a bit of a silver lining here, if there are any, is the fact that he is a DPP bowler batsman. So you can really have your pick of the bunch here around about that price point, or even more if you have more cash in the bank. So not the end of the world, but it is very, very frustrating, no doubt. Now, alongside him was Marcus Stoinis, the other Melbourne Stars player I have in my team, unfortunately, because they are going absolutely putrid. Scored a 51 across both games, not the best, but also not the worst. I mean, when you compare it to Jack Edwards with his 12, went down 6.3K. I think for what he's presented, he's already gone up 30.5K. If you wanted to move Stoinis on, you'd have my backing virtually. I just think with the Stars, they're in that bad a form that they need to change things up. And Stoinis, I don't think bowled in the second game. I think he may have bowled in the first game and got a wicket from memory. But yeah, it's just something that they'll need to get on top of. And who knows, that those changes may come with the form of Stoinis potentially bowling more overs. Their bowlers really did, I think, do a little bit of a job on the second game. It's their batsmen that really weighed things down. Both Stoinis didn't have the level-headedness to stay in at the crease. And Maxwell as well, who I'll get to in a moment, who has been very, very disappointing. But let's move on to Salzman. So a bit of a segue here. So Salzman was my captaincy loophole and used him to loop on Turner off the bench, who again scored very, very nicely with a 57 and has gone up again in price. Would you believe it? 17.1K to now have gone up 42K in total. His price point at the moment is 112.4K. So he's been a very, very nice cash cow for those of us that do own him in 17% of teams. So I looped on his score, and in doing so as well, I also opted to roll the dice, I guess, in this sense. Maxi, I think it scored around about 60, 65 to 70 in the first game. Looked pretty good. Went out off the back of a stupid shot that he shouldn't have played, and it's a classic Maxi thing to do. He did likewise in the second game and played a stupid shot. Probably should have been batting into the late overs for the Stars had he been more level-headed. And that's kind of the key word here when it comes to the Stars. They don't have level-headedness. And it's really that let them down, really. And Maxi in particular as well. So the one frustrating thing here, even more so for me, is the fact that I traded out Matt Short for Maxi. Now, mind you, Maxi, off the back of scoring 77, dropped 30.1K. That's eye-watering to read in this round just gone. So now sits at 206.2K. Compare that to Matt Short, who I thought Shorty was going to drop in price. He did, only 5.5K, but he scored a 120 in one game. And, it's that sort of frustration that you see, that the ability of, again, I spoke about it earlier on, the sliding doors moments where, that one move, had I kept, Matt Short and not traded in Maxwell, that's a, difference of what's that, 30, 50, almost, 50 points difference there in total. But like I was saying to other people or other content creators in one of the chats that I'm in, 9 times out of 10, I will make that move in the fact that, Matt Short had a equally as high break even, not as high as Maxi, but the fact that Maxi was coming into a double game round, Short only had the single game. Short hasn't been in the best form, arguably, especially with the bat compared to recent seasons. I'm always going to make that move, I think 9 times out of 10. So I'm not really kicking myself because, as I said, 9 times out of 10, that probably would have worked in your favor, but it just hasn't in this case here. So with Maxi, he did drop that 30.1k in value, and it does make it a little bit more difficult in getting Matt Short into my team alongside the other 2 players that I'm looking to bring in that I'll get to in a moment, speaking about my trades and what I'm looking to do. But that's it. I mean, you've got to look at it holistically, I think, as well, because yes, in isolation, he's dropped 30k, but you compare it to the other players that I have in my team that have gone up in price. Like I spoke of Turner, he's gone up 17.1k, 42k in total. There's other guys across the board as well. Connolly has gone up 47.4k. Dwarshus went up 22.3k coming out of this round just gone. McSweeney's another one coming out of this round, went up 22.2k. There's guys here across the board that have gone up in price that if I didn't have them on my team would be struggling to try and get into my side. So I think I'm in a fortunate enough position to be in this position, but it could always be worse. That's always the one thing to give you a little bit of perspective, I think. But having said all that, it is frustrating with Maxi because I lost cash and lost points. Or before I move into the bowlers, rest of the bowlers, alongside Turner on the bench, I had Basley who scored a 2. Now, he's virtually like a specialist batsman now because he's not getting overs, and that's really the reason why he is on my bench and why I'm not confident in playing him. He does have the double coming up for the strikers in round 4. We're hopeful that he can pop off and at least have maybe a half decent score with 2 bites of the cherry with these 2 games coming up, but we'll just have to wait and see and maybe hope. But I think if you are going to try and loop a player that's on a double game week, you can probably do it with Basley, and that's what I did in his first double game week. Didn't really work out because I think I ended up losing around about 10 points because I opted for Stoinis off the bench as opposed to Basley. But, I mean, it's up to you if you want to go down that route. But as I said, now he's kind of looking like a specialist batsman for the strikers. And if he's not rolling the arm over, he's not getting extra opportunities to make extra points. So let's move on to the bowlers now. And I spoke of Maxi. Let's move on to Dwarshus. So he was my other big trade in. I was very, very bullish on him. You would have seen I spoke about it in the previous video. Without Abbott being there, he's their specialist patesman, and he's in some really, really nice form. So hopefully you were guided by my, words, I guess. I won't say words of wisdom because I don't always speak wisdom, but in this case I did with Dwarshus. Ended up scoring the 148, which is really, really nice to see. Scored well in the first game and absolutely smashed it in the second. So yeah, scored okay, actually, should say, in the first game, 46, but then came out and scored the 102 with 4 wickets, if you don't mind, in the second game for the Sixers. So looking really good. As I said, went up 22.3k and sits at a very nice juicy price point of 185k. So if you're looking to bring in, a Matt Short potentially, or even a Sutherland all the type that's sort of pushing or above the 200k mark, he could probably help you get there. So I'm very thankful that I brought Dwarshus into my team, not just for obviously the 148 that he's posted in score, but also the 22.3k that he's made up, which has kind of made up the difference that I've lost out with Maxi. So as I said, you've got to look at it holistically, and if it helps you get to the targets that you're looking to get into your team when it comes to trades, it's all worth it. So next up in the bowlers, we have Berendorf. Held on to him, scored a 57. He's been very consistent, 78, 67, 60, and a 57. Went up 1.7k and faces the strikers this coming round. He'll probably be a stepping stone for me to one of my players that I'm eyeing off as a trade-in. Connolly as well, 166.1k. Didn't have the best outing. Still scored a 37, which was okay. Went up 4.9k as well, which isn't the worst. But yeah, as I said, he's gone up in total 47.4k. So I think with Hardy back in the team, it means now, I guess, the reliance upon him to, be that genuine all-rounder. Probably is less so, but I think even so, he's in some really good form. And if you want to keep him in your team, I think you can do so. He's kind of cut his teeth now across the past couple of seasons and last year especially. But looks like a genuine all-rounder. I think is very, very valuable. Next to him is Henry Thornton. So he was, believe it or not, my lowest score for the round. I only scored a 4 and just was getting pummeled across the park. A real, a far cry from what he scored in the previous 3 rounds, 52, 56, 50, and then scores a 4. Doesn't take a wicket, had 7 dot balls. His economy rate went into the negatives with a -3. So, yeah, as you can see there, the bulk of his points only came via dot balls, didn't take any wickets, didn't make any runs, all that sort of stuff. Economy rate bonus, as I said, in the negatives. It's the double coming up. Thornton has been value. He's gone up 15.9k across the season thus far. He's had an off game. Let's back him in, and hopefully he can score well with a bounce back game. Now on the bench, we have Fergus O'Neill, who obviously was on the bye, and then Wildermuth as well, who is my permanent, loophole as it sits at the moment. And then I spoke about McSweeney, who was my my boost player that I traded into my team. Scored at 73, looked really, really good, and went up 22.2k to now sit priced at 141.8k. So you could keep him in your team if you want, but his break-even now sits at 70. So in all likelihood, unless he has a similar scoring game this coming round to what he had in round 3, he's probably going to start dropping in price. So might be time to jump off him and use him as a bit of a stepping stone to another player. But that's it. That's how my team sits at the moment. Let us roll into trades, because I spoke about it in the past. I've got a bit of a spreadsheet that I type out in terms of number of players that I want to trade into my team, number of double game round players that I want to bring into my team on every single given round. And I'm trying to sort of average 7 to 8 players who are on a double game round on a given round. So at the moment, I'm tracking okay. But off the back of this round, in round virtually, I saw Maxi post that shit score. I was crunching numbers and I'm like, okay, he's going to drop, 20, 30K potentially. That would have put me in, negative territory. So my salary that I have, or the salary cap that I have left in my bank, is 25.2k. So I'm like, okay, that eats up, all of that and leaves me with a negative of around about 5k. Dwarcius, who scored quite well, as I said, has gone up in price, kind of, negates that negative downturn in price point by Maxi. So that's been good. Berendorf kept his price point, went up by around about 1 to 2k. That's helped me. So the guys that I'm looking to bring into my team, plain and simple, let's keep it simple here. Before we get into details, I've obviously already got Fergus O'Neill. The guys that I don't have that I want to get into my team, Tommy Rogers from the Renegades. He's been in supreme form. He has a negative break-even and is pure value, great form, all that sort of stuff. So let me just bring him up on screen here. 150.9k, has gone up 33.4k. I had him in my team for the previous double and then traded him out. So I want to bring him back in because he is an elite scorer. Break-even of 42, which is achievable, I think, by his standards across a double game round, facing the Thunder as well, mind you, who traditionally are a struggling team, probably not as bad as the Stars, but coming off games of 39, 78 and 111, I think he is someone that I am very, very keen on. So he is definitely one player. Outside of that, it's pretty obvious. Matt Short, who I traded out of my team, I wanted to keep him, but had to make way for Maxi. It's going to be touch and go as to whether or not I have enough money to bring back in Matt Short. But I think if I don't, I'm going to have to get rid of, one of the options. And I think it's probably going to be Tom Rogers, because the other player that I'm looking to bring into my team who I didn't have for their double from the Renegades initially is this man here, Will Sutherland. So he's at 191.6k, has a break even, which surprises me, of 131. So across a double game round, he smashed it last time. So he scored a 99 and then 118 in the second game. Both of those combined for a double game round score of over 200. So crazy stuff, crazy stuff. And then in round 2, he scored a 63 and has gone up collectively 59k in total. So in terms of teams that he's in at the moment as well, you need to sort of keep mind of that. He's in 36% of teams still, so a lot of people have held him to their credit across his buy. And then you kind of extrapolate that out in terms of those teams that don't own him yet, that will look to get him into their team, probably will push his ownership around about, anywhere between 45%, I think, to 50% of the competition. So you can take two strategies here. It's like, okay, well, given the high ownership, you can offset that risk by bringing him into your team and, whatever his scores there, that's fine. You ride the wave. If you go against the grain and you want to fade him, this is a really ride or die type scenario because either you're going to be riding high or you're going to be down in the pits because you're going to be falling way behind those teams of the competition that have him in their sides if he comes and pops out a big score for the double game round. So I think it's too much of a risk to not have him in my team, considering that he is bowling. Coming into the season, I spoke about it before, he's had injury niggles, he's had form issues, all that sort of stuff, and hadn't been bowling. Even last season when he was actually fit, took the captaincy and he didn't bowl himself. And I'm like, what is going on here? I had flashbacks to that. So that's the reason why I didn't start him in my team, and I'm kicking myself. But now's the time to atone. And I think, facing the Thunder of all teams, it really is set up for him to come out and have a nice score. Knock on wood that it actually does happen. But, it might be one of those things where you bring him into your team and he doesn't perform, or conversely, he comes into your team and absolutely smashes it, and you don't really want to be missing out on, claiming a big score from him, given that he is especially highly owned. So he is the other player. So let's see if we have enough coin. So I was crunching the numbers, as I said, with my spreadsheet, and the only way I can do it is by punting Maxi. And I think I'm quite comfortable with that because of his form line at the moment. The form of the Stars isn't good. His break even at the moment as well is 132, so he could, in all likelihood, drop further in cash. If he pops off and has a nice game, all the best to him, but at the very least probably will hold his price point. There are the single game rounds that are coming up, so I think in terms of guys that you want to have in your team, traditionally you probably would love to have Maxi in your team, so I probably will look to get him back in at some stage, but he's going to be my stepping stone to Matt Short. Outside of him, we're going to be using Dwarcius as a stepping stone as well, which isn't ideal because I really love Dwarcius. As I said, without Abbott, he is performing very, very well. But, break even now is 39. So even though he may still go up, 10, 15K, I'm willing to part with him for the time being and maybe try and get him back into my team for round 5 when there is the single game round. So he's an incredible player, but I think for the purposes of this and trying to fit in these double game round players, I need to do it. And it really is off the back of Maxi being an absolute shit and putting in a shit score. The other one that I'm punting is Berendorf, 176.8K. He's been very reliable, I think, as I said. So he probably is someone that you can keep in your team, but given he is one of the more highly priced players in my team, I need to use him as a stepping stone to bring in these 3 guys. So as I said, Matt Short, he's in my team. Let's see if this works as well, by the way. So I haven't had a chance to properly see if I can fit all these guys into my team off the back of these 3 moves. So with Matt Short, my team, it leaves me with 344.1K. Sutherland comes in, it leaves me with 152.5K. So that does mean that I can fit in Tom Rogers because he is priced at 150.9K. It leaves me, I am in by the skin of my teeth, ladies and gents, 1.6K in the bank remaining. So, like I said, the moves, that's going to come off, thankfully. And Dwarcius, I can thank. Maxi, I can bid farewell and say, thanks for almost stuffing it up for me. And Berendorf, I can thank you as well, good sir. So out goes Maxi, out goes Dwarcius, out goes Berendorf, and in comes Matt Short, Sutherland, and Rogers. So let's complete that trade before any of the gremlins in the SuperCoach back end prevent me from doing those trades. And I'm very, very happy with this. I'm fairly happy with this. Like I said, Jack Edwards and Curran especially has been ruled out for the season, but given the purposes of this, I don't have another boost to get him out of my team. Jack Edwards, we don't know if he's going to be available for the coming round. We can assume that he might be available because he was touch and go for the game just gone because he was named in their extended squad and apparently by reports was training. So they would just probably think of giving him a week off and then assess from there. So he may be available. But Curran, I think he's going to be at the moment. I'll look to trade him out next week. Given he won't be playing, he's not at risk, obviously, of dropping in price. So if you need to hold him for a week or even longer, you can do that. But I think to hold him out for a week is totally fine. It's not going to hurt me because I have Turner that I can bring on field and a few other guys as well. So let's go through my team and the setup and the like as well. So let's first off count the double game players that I have in my team. So I've obviously got Overton, I've got Basley, I've got Short, good old Matty Short, Shorty. So that gives me 3. We have Sutherland with 4, Rogers with 5, and then Fergus O'Neill with 6, and then Henry Thornton with 7. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is correct. So 7 players, as I said, I'm trying to average 7 to 8 double game round players per round. So this has worked out an absolute treat. And it does mean that I have enough players. If Edwards does play, mind you, I could potentially look to loophole a player. So with the way things sit at the moment, let's put Matty Short in the batters category. And then for the time being, because the awkward thing that I will mention as well with Jack Edwards is the Sixers have the 3rd game of the round. So it means that obviously if he is ruled out and you are relying upon him to play on field for you, just make sure that you do have cover for him because, 3rd game of the round means that you've only really got options to trade him to someone from the Brisbane Heat or someone from the Melbourne Stars because the Renegades, the Strikers, who else is there? Perth and the Thunder will have already played. Or you could alternatively trade him to a Hobart Hurricane player who they're playing this round if you're quick enough after you see the team sheets being released. But for me, what I'm going to be doing at the moment, I think, with the setup, I've got 2 non-playing players in Curran and Salzman, ideally, and then I've got Wildermuth in the bowlers, which isn't ideal. But I think in terms of who you want to, like I said, Basley, you could potentially loop if he comes out with a poor one in the first game. They play the 2nd game of the round, the Strikers, for their first game. You could potentially look to bench Basley, but I don't know if I can in this case because, I could potentially, but who else could I bench? But if I'm going to do that, it's probably risking a bit too much because Jack Edwards is touch and go, as I said. So what I will do for now is put Jack Edwards on the bench and then obviously Fergus O'Neill on field, given he's on the double. What I could do actually is put Connolly in the bats, shift Basley down to the bowlers. I could put Basley on the bench, Edwards on field, and so I'll at least be able to get a look at Basley's score in the first game. And then if he spuds it up, I can leave things as is. If Edwards is ruled out, then that's fine. It means I get Basley's score anyway. But if Edwards is playing, it does mean that, I can roll the dice on him and keep Basley on the bench. But I'd almost feel more comfortable with... Actually, there's no way to loop on... I could do it with Stoinis potentially. No, I'm going to have to work things out. But I was going to say, because the Stars play a little bit later after the Sixers Hobart game, you could potentially put, if you do have the chance to do it, put Edwards on your bench with the emergency and then have someone like a Stoinis on field. And as I said earlier, if Edwards kills it, you can put Stoinis on the bench if you've got a loophole player and bench Stoinis, or conversely keep Stoinis on field and then, keep Edwards on the bench if he spuds it. So that's virtually my side as it looks at the moment. I'm very, very happy with the way things are sitting at the moment. As I said, to be ranked where I am at the moment is, I think, the highest that I've been ranked at this stage of the season for quite a while. I'll go back through the history in a moment. But for the captaincy and vice captaincy, let's just quickly go through that. As I said, Overton's been in ripping form. He's been in better form than Matt Short. So you're probably well within your rights to go for Overton instead of Matt Short. Whereas Matt Short, the big name, but to his credit, actually scored quite well last round. Batting and bowling, I think you can't go too wrong with either of these guys, but I think I'll probably go with Matt Short first up with the vice captaincy. And then if he fails, it's going to have to be someone from the Renegades. So Probably Sutherland, I think. So we'll put the vice captaincy on Matt Short, and then we'll put the captaincy on Sutho there. And then I've got a whole heap of non-playing players that I can use to loop, either Doran, Solzman, Curran, Wildermuth. It means I've only got 2 players on the bench that are active at the moment, but is what it is. So I should say there that Sutho will have the VC and Short will have the captaincy, given that the Renegades play first up in round 4. So obviously makes more sense to put the VC on Sutho first up. But that's virtually my team as it sits at the moment. If you have any questions, comments outside of this, let us know in the comment section down below if you're watching us on YouTube. And as I always said, you can hit us up on our socials, especially on Twitter/X at DamoJ88, or you can hit us up on our normal official Twitter page, which is at supercoach_edge. Hit us up there, all that sort of hoopla. But let us go, before we sign off, we will just quickly go through our Open League and round out. Now, I'm 10th out of 168 people, and if you have yet to join our Open League, you are free to do so. 977381 is the link, is the code. If you're watching us on YouTube, I'll put the link down in the description below. But if you are listening to us via the audio podcast, go to your SuperCoach app, website, whatever, and punch in the code 977381 and you can join us. But topping the list at the moment is Max's man, Matthew. He is currently ranked overall 17th. We've got quite a few big rankers here in our Open League. Az's Bashes is in second spot in 20th overall rank. General Soreness with a overall rank of 22. Woody's War with 109, his overall rank. Bow and Arrow in 5th spot. How's that in 6th? Michael Sparkle in 7th. You Won't Beat Me in 8th. And Buzzers Battalion in 9th. And then me, I round out the 10th spot, DJ Trader. So as I said, feel free to join us on there, but let us quickly have a look at our historical rankings. So as we've gone and progressed through the season thus far, we've gone from a rank of starting rank of 1,820 to 347th to 222. From here, let's hope that we can get inside the top 10. Previous seasons to this, so round 3 we're at, I'll compare as to how I have been ranked. 1,086 last season, and then finished with a final rank of 299th, which has been my highest overall. In the 2022-2023 season, I was ranked 1,369th in the 3rd round and finished 671st overall. 2021-2022, I was ranked 4,330th overall in round 3, which isn't the best, but ended up finishing with a nice even rank of 500th overall. So at least this is it's pleasing to see that I've actually kept climbing the ranks despite a poor start to the season in previous seasons. But mind you, in the 2020-2021 season, in round 3, I was ranked 106th. So I will correct myself, because that is the highest rank that I've had at round 3. And that season as well, I ended up finishing 337th. So I actually slid, believe it or not. And mind you, though, that was the longest season, 17 rounds. So it probably works into our favor now that we've got a smaller season. 2019-2020, I was 2,221st, ended up finishing 729th. 2018-2019, I was ranked 1,072nd, finished 932nd, and then dating all the way back to 2016-2017 season, I was ranked 2,050th in round 3 and finished with a rank of 563rd overall. So pleasing to see, we're on a very, very nice track here in terms of where we're going. And extrapolate that out, like we've climbed 1,600 spots in 3 rounds. Can we consolidate things and, climb into the top 100 over the next couple of rounds, maybe the next 3 rounds? As of round 6, if we can finish in the top, or at least be in the top 100 by round 6, we're going to be in a very, very nice position. So fingers crossed we can keep ascending the ranks. And the other thing to keep note on as well is the team value. So I started out with a team value of 2,051,600, round 2. That went up to 2,218,400. And then again, it climbed to 2,260,900 as of round 3. So again, that's something you got to keep an eye on, because you want to keep building your team value, because that will allow you more money. Obviously, speaks for itself for you to then get in the best players from week to week, which comes in very, very handy, especially for those single game rounds. So that's it, ladies and gents. That is my team. That's how I'm tracking. Those are my trades. As I said, if you have any comments, questions, leave them down below here on YouTube in the comment section. You can hit us up on socials at DamoJ88 or at supercoach_edge. And I'm always happy to help where I can. But that's it, ladies and gents. Thanks as always for tuning in. And this has been the last time that you hear from us in 2024. Next you'll hear from us will be in 2025. So we will wish you a very, very happy new year. Stay safe, all that sort of stuff. Hopefully you had a great round or an okay round, at least because it was a tough round in round 3. But wishing you all the best for round 4 to follow. And we'll touch base again next year, which will only be in a couple more days. But until then, we'll see you next time. Cheers.